She let a single dad and his daughter stay for one night, unaware he was the new CEO of her company. Before we continue, please tell us, where in the world are you watching from? We love seeing how far our stories travel. Are you okay, sweetheart? Emily called out through the rain, her voice barely carrying over the sound of thunder. The little girl turned, soaked to the bone, clutching a faded teddy bear like her life depended on it. Beside her stood a tall man in a dark jacket, his shoulders slumped, his eyes scanning the parking lot like he didn't know where to go next. The storm was getting worse, sheets of rain pounding against the cracked pavement of the grocery store parking lot. Emily hesitated for a second, then jogged over, her scrubs already drenched. "You guys need a ride." "You'll freeze out here." The man looked up, his voice low but polite. I don't want to bother you." "My car died, and the tow truck's delayed because of the storm." He looked down at the little girl. "We'll figure something out." Emily crouched to meet the girl's eyes. "Hey, kiddo." "I'm Emily. What's your name?" "Sophie," she whispered, shivering. Emily smiled softly. "Well, Sophie, I've got a car. It's old but warm. How about you two come with me before we all turn into popsicles?" Ryan, though she didn't know his name yet, hesitated, his pride almost getting in the way. But then Sophie sneezed, and his resolve broke. "Okay," he said quietly, "just for a little while." By the time they reached Emily's beat-up Honda, she was soaked through, her hair plastered to her cheeks. The heater barely worked, but it was enough. Sophie curled up in the back seat with a blanket Emily had tossed over, and Ryan kept thanking her like she'd just rescued them from a hurricane. When they reached her small apartment, Emily quickly made space, clearing off the couch. "It's not much," she said, embarrassed, "but it's dry and I make a mean grilled cheese." Ryan smiled faintly, his voice almost tired. "After the night we've had, that sounds like five-star dining." While she cooked, Sophie sat at the tiny kitchen table, drawing little hearts on napkins. She asked, "Do you live here alone?" Emily nodded. "Yeah, just me and my dad, but he's at the hospital tonight." "Are you a nurse?" "Something like that," Emily said, stirring soup. "I patch people up and try not to faint at the sight of blood." Ryan chuckled quietly, a warm sound that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Sounds like a tough gig." When they sat down to eat, the three of them fell into an easy silence. The storm outside softened into a drizzle. Sophie giggled as she tried to blow on her hot soup. Emily smiled, realizing how long it had been since laughter filled her apartment. Later, when Sophie fell asleep on the couch, Ryan quietly draped his coat over her and looked at Emily. "Thank you. You didn't have to do this." Emily shook her head. "Yeah, but I wanted to." You both looked like you needed a break for a moment. Their eyes met. Two strangers, each carrying stories they weren't ready to tell. Neither of them knew that this one rainy night would change everything that came after. When Emily woke up the next morning, the smell of coffee drifted through her small apartment. Rich, warm, and way too fancy for the instant stuff she usually drank. For a split second, she thought she was dreaming. Then she heard quiet humming from the kitchen. She sat up, squinting toward the light, and there he was, the man from last night, wearing her old flannel apron, flipping pancakes like he'd done it 1,000 times. "Morning," Ryan said, glancing over his shoulder with an easy smile. His voice was calm, but his eyes still carried that edge of exhaustion. "Hope you don't mind. Your daughter said you'd like breakfast." Emily blinked, then laughed softly. "She's not my daughter, though I wouldn't mind claiming her. She's got better manners than most adults I know." From the corner of the table, Sophie giggled, swinging her feet. "Daddy burns pancakes." "You don't, traitor," Ryan muttered, making her laugh harder. Emily leaned against the door frame, arms crossed. "Well, I gotta admit, it smells amazing in here." "I haven't had a real breakfast in months." Ryan flipped another pancake, shrugged like it was no big deal. "Guess it's my way of saying thanks. You didn't have to take us in last night." "Yeah, well," Emily said, trying to sound casual. "I figured you weren't serial killers." He chuckled. "Guess we passed the background check." As they ate, Emily caught herself studying him. The way his hands looked rough, like someone who'd done real work, not just office stuff. But there was something else too, a quiet confidence, a kind of discipline that didn't match the worn jacket and beat-up shoes. He spoke gently to Sophie, patient, kind. It made Emily wonder what kind of story sat behind those calm gray eyes. After breakfast, Ryan started gathering their things, clearly preparing to leave. "We'll get out of your hair. I can call another tow and—" Emily interrupted. "You don't have to rush. The storm's still bad, and I've got extra coffee. Stay a little longer." He hesitated, then nodded slowly. "All right, but only if you let me help fix that flickering light in your kitchen. It's driving me crazy," she laughed. "Deal." While he worked, she noticed Sophie carefully arranging napkins into flowers, her small voice humming. Emily couldn't remember the last time her apartment felt so alive. For the first time in months, the silence that usually haunted her home was replaced by warmth, by laughter. Later that afternoon, Ryan got a call. His expression shifted instantly. Serious, guarded. "Yeah, I'll be there soon," he said before hanging up. Emily tilted her head. "Work?" He nodded, offering a tight smile. "Something like that." What she didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that the man fixing her broken light wasn't some struggling mechanic or traveling salesman. He was the incoming CEO of the company she'd been working at for years. And tomorrow morning, when she'd walk into the office, she'd find him standing at the front of the conference room, wearing a suit, giving orders, and pretending they'd never met. But tonight, as he carried a sleepy Sophie to the car, all Emily saw was a tired father trying his best. And all Ryan could think was how, in one stormy night, a stranger had managed to make his cold world feel human again. Monday mornings were never kind to Emily, but this one felt different. Maybe it was the strange quiet after the storm, or maybe it was because she couldn't shake the memory of the tall, kind-eyed man flipping pancakes in her kitchen. Either way, she walked into work that morning with a weird flutter in her chest. Her desk at Halden Dynamics, a mid-sized tech firm in downtown Chicago, looked the same as always. Papers everywhere, a half-dead plant, and a chipped mug that read, "Running on caffeine and deadlines." She set down her bag and whispered to herself, "All right, let's survive another week." A few minutes later, the office buzzed with whispers. People were standing, fixing their hair, straightening their ties. Her friend Megan leaned over the cubicle wall, eyes wide. "New CEO's here today," she said in a hushed tone. "Apparently he's from New York." Ruthless, crazy rich, the kind of guy who fires half a department before lunch. Emily groaned. Perfect, just what I needed. Another power-hungry boss. The meeting invite hit her inbox 5 minutes later. Mandatory introduction, conference room A. She sighed, grabbed her notepad, and headed in with everyone else. The room went quiet the moment the door opened. A man stepped in, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her car. He didn't say a word at first, just scanned the room, calm and composed. Then his eyes landed on her. Emily froze. Her heart tripped over itself. No way, it was him. The guy from the storm. The one who fixed her light, cooked her breakfast, and tucked his little girl into bed on her couch. Ryan took a slow breath before speaking, his voice steady and deep. "Good morning, everyone. I'm Ryan Carter, your new CEO." Emily felt her stomach twist. Ryan Carter? The name hit like a wave. She'd seen it on the company website months ago. The board announcement she barely read because it felt too far above her pay grade. He didn't acknowledge her, not even a glance that hinted at recognition. The rest of the team clapped nervously as he launched into a speech about innovation, teamwork, and rebuilding company culture. But Emily barely heard a word. Her mind was spinning. He's the boss? The CEO? When the meeting ended, she tried to slip out quietly, but Ryan caught her at the door. His tone was casual, but his eyes said something else. "Ms. Miller, right?" he asked, his voice steady. She swallowed. Yes, sir." He gave a faint, almost secretive smile. "Glad to have someone on the team who actually knows how to handle a storm." Emily blinked, completely thrown. Was that a joke? A hint? Did he just... Before she could respond, he turned and walked away, leaving her standing there, heart pounding, face flushed, wondering what in the world she had just gotten herself into. Later that day, her phone buzzed with an email from HR. Ms. Miller, please report to the executive floor for reassignment. Her hands trembled slightly. Reassignment? That usually meant one of two things: a promotion or a pink slip. When she stepped into the top floor office, Ryan was standing by the window, city skyline glowing behind him. He turned slowly, his expression unreadable. Relax, he said softly. You're not in trouble. In fact, I was hoping you'd take on something new. Personal assistant to the CEO. Emily blinked. Me? You want me to? Yeah, he interrupted gently. I trust you. And just like that, the girl who once offered a stranger and his daughter a warm couch on a stormy night was now standing in front of that same man, her boss, whose secret was just beginning to unfold. The next few weeks passed in a blur, and Emily still couldn't believe her new reality. Every morning she'd step into the sleek glass elevator that carried her straight to the top floor, to his office. Ryan Carter, her boss, her storm guest, the man whose daughter had fallen asleep on her couch, was now her everyday reality. And somehow, despite the power suits, the title, and the million-dollar deals, he didn't feel like some distant executive. He still carried that same quiet kindness she saw that night, buried beneath layers of discipline and control. But there were moments when that armor cracked, like the morning he showed up late, tie loose, eyes heavy. She found him sitting at his desk, staring blankly at a photo of a little girl framed in silver. Rough morning, she asked carefully, setting his coffee down. Ryan glanced up, a tired smile flickering. Nora's science project, volcano eruption gone wrong. The kitchen looks like a crime scene. Emily chuckled, shaking her head. You're supposed to supervise volcanoes, not live through them. He laughed. A real laugh, not the polite kind executives use. And for a second, he didn't look like a CEO at all, just a dad figuring it out one disaster at a time. That became their thing, the banter, the little jokes, the shared silences that somehow weren't awkward anymore. Emily saw sides of him no one else in the company did. The soft-spoken man who always checked his phone during lunch to make sure Nora had eaten. The father who never missed her bedtime call, even during late meetings. Still, rumors started flying through the office. People whispered when they saw her walk into his office with files, or when he lingered a little longer near her desk. Emily ignored it at first, but one afternoon during a lunch break, a coworker smirked. Must be nice having the boss wrapped around your finger. She froze. The words stung. That night, as she left the building, Ryan caught her by the elevator. You okay? He asked, noticing her distant look. She shrugged, trying to play it off. Just office noise. He nodded, his voice quiet but firm. Don't let them get to you. You earned your spot here, Emily. Don't ever doubt that something about the way he said it, steady, protective, sincere, melted a piece of the wall she'd built. A few days later, Ryan asked if she could drop by his place to deliver some important documents he'd forgotten before heading out of town. When she arrived, Nora answered the door in fuzzy pajamas, her eyes lighting up like she'd just seen her favorite cartoon character. Miss Emily, she squealed, throwing her little arms around her. Emily laughed, kneeling down. Hey, kiddo, you remember me? Of course, Nora said proudly. You made pancakes better than Daddy. Ryan appeared behind her, laughing under his breath. Hey, that's treason, young lady. The three of them spent that evening sitting on the living room floor, half working, half building a Lego castle with Nora. Emily didn't realize how late it had gotten until the clock hit 10. She stood up quickly. I should go. It's getting late. But as she reached for her bag, Nora's tiny voice stopped her. Can you stay until I fall asleep? Ryan gave a small, almost embarrassed smile. She doesn't ask that often. Emily hesitated, then nodded. Of course. She followed Nora to her room, tucked her in, and read a story until her breathing evened out. When she turned, Ryan was leaning against the doorway, watching silently. Thank you, he said softly. Emily smiled faintly. She's an amazing kid. He nodded, eyes warm but unreadable. She likes you, he said, then paused. So do I. Her breath caught for a moment, the air between them suddenly charged. She wanted to say something, anything, but words failed. Before she could respond, Ryan added quietly, "Good night, Emily," and walked away. She stood there for a long moment, heart pounding, realizing that somewhere between storms, boardrooms, and bedtime stories, her life had quietly started to change. The next morning, Emily tried to focus on her work, but her mind kept drifting back to Ryan's words. "So do I." It played on repeat, like a song she couldn't shut off. Every time their eyes met in the office, she felt that same quiet electricity, that unspoken something that made her heartbeat trip over itself. But neither of them said a word about it. Not in the meetings, not in the elevator, not even when they brushed past each other in the hallway, and both froze for just a heartbeat too long. But peace never lasts long, does it? Especially when the world's watching. A week later, Emily walked into work to find the office buzzing. People huddled in corners, whispering, phones flashing headlines. She didn't even have to ask. Her photo was plastered across a gossip site. Carter Industries CEO and his new flame, the employee who stole his heart. Below the headline were pictures, grainy but clear enough, of her, Ryan, and Nora sitting on the floor of his living room, building that Lego castle. Her stomach dropped. The article twisted everything, painting her as some opportunist sleeping her way up. The comments were brutal, cruel. By lunchtime, she couldn't breathe inside that building anymore. She packed her things quietly, ignoring the stares, and walked out. That night, Ryan showed up at her doorstep, rain pouring down, his tie gone, hair soaked. "You quit," he said, out of breath. Emily folded her arms, trying to steady her voice. "I didn't want to make things harder for you, Ryan." "For Nora. You've worked too hard to have this kind of drama hanging over your name." He stepped closer, shaking his head. "Emily, listen to me. I don't care about the headlines. I care about you. You walked into my storm that night, remember? You didn't ask for anything. You just helped. And somehow you became the calm in my chaos." Her chest tightened. "You don't mean that," he interrupted gently. "I do. You're not just the woman who opened her door when we had nowhere to go. You're the reason my daughter laughs again. The reason my home doesn't feel empty anymore." Emily blinked back, tears, her defenses crumbling. "Ryan," he took another step forward, his voice low but steady. "I don't need a press release or an apology. I just need to know if you feel it too. Because Emily, I'm done pretending I don't." She didn't answer with words. She just reached out, pulling him in, her forehead resting against his. "I do," she whispered. The next morning, when Ryan arrived at work hand in hand with Emily and Nora skipping between them, the whispers stopped. Maybe it was because of the press statement he released later that day. A simple one-line message that broke the internet. "The woman you called lucky is the one who saved me." And from that day on, Emily never looked back. Not as the woman who took in a stranger one stormy night, but as the woman who found her forever in the calm after it. If this journey touched your heart, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss another story that stirs the soul. And before you leave, click on one of the videos on your screen, because every story we share holds another moment that might change the way you see love, family, and second chances.